The old Ford Cougar rumbled down the tree-lined street, its engine humming a familiar tune of impending freedom. Dust motes danced in the late afternoon sun, catching on the worn dashboard. I gripped the steering wheel, a nervous flutter in my stomach, not because of the weekend itself, but because of Ryan's mom, Sarah. She was always so calm, so warm, like my own mom, who was a whirlwind of schedules and expectations. I pulled into Ryan's driveway, the tires crunching on the loose gravel. The house, a two-story colonial with a sprawling porch, looked inviting, a beacon of normalcy. A basketball hoop stood sentinel by the garage, its net torn, a silent testament to countless summer afternoons. The front door swung open before I even killed the engine. Ryan, a gangly blur of limbs and a wide grin, bounded. Out. Dude, you made it. He slapped my shoulder a little too hard. Wouldn't miss it, I said, unbuckling. I grabbed my worn duffel bag from the back seat as we walked toward the house, the scent of something baking. Cinnamon and apples maybe wafted from inside. A woman emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Sarah, her hair, a rich auburn, was pulled back loosely, a few strands escaping to frame her face. She wore a simple, faded, denim apron over a soft, cream-colored blouse. Her smile was gentle, her eyes the color of warm honey, crinkled at the corners as she looked at me. She was 42, Ryan had told me, divorced for years. But she carried herself with a quiet grace that made her seem ageless. "Welcome, Liam," she said, her voice a low, melodic hum. "It's good to see you. Good to see you too, Mrs. Miller." The formality felt stiff, a relic of childhood visits. "Sarah, please," she corrected, her smile widening. "Make yourself at home. Dinner's almost ready." The weekend settled into a comfortable rhythm. We played video games until our eyes burned, devoured Sarah's home-cooked meals, and talked about everything and nothing. Ryan's house was a sanctuary of easygoing peace, a stark contrast to the buzzing tension of my own home. Sarah was always there, a quiet presence, offering snacks, refilling drinks, her movements fluid and unhurried. I found myself watching her sometimes, caught by the way the light played on her hair as she leaned over a book, or the way she hummed softly as she folded laundry. She had a way of looking at you, really seeing you, that was disarmingly kind. The air conditioner hummed, a low, steady drone, a counterpoint to the distant chirping of crickets outside. It was well past midnight. Ryan, a champion sleeper, was lost to the world in the room next door, a soft snore occasionally vibrating through the thin wall. I had woken up thirsty, my throat dry from too much salty popcorn. I padded barefoot into the kitchen, the cool tile a welcome relief under my soles. The light was on, a soft glow illuminating the space. Sarah sat at the kitchen island, a large ceramic mug cupped in her hands, a half-empty bottle of red wine beside it. She wore a silk robe, a deep sapphire blue, that shimmered softly in the dim light. Her hair was down, falling in soft waves. Around her shoulders, she looked up as I entered, a small, startled gasp escaping her lips. "Oh, Liam, you scared me." A small, nervous laugh followed. "Couldn't sleep?" "Just thirsty," I mumbled, reaching for a glass from the cupboard. The clink of glass against glass echoed in the quiet room. "You okay? Just unwinding," she said, taking a slow sip from her mug.
All week.
I filled my glass with water from the fridge dispenser, the gurgle of the water surprisingly loud. I leaned against the counter, suddenly feeling awkward. The silence stretched, not uncomfortable, but charged. "Rough week at work?" I asked, just to fill the quiet. She sighed, a soft, weary sound. Something like that, more like rough life sometimes. A small, wry smile played on her lips. "Being an adult is overrated, you know? All these responsibilities, all these expectations." "Yeah, I can imagine," I said, though I couldn't really. My biggest responsibility was getting my college applications in on time. "You're lucky," she continued, her gaze distant. "You're at the precipice of everything. Everything is still possible for you." She looked at me then, her eyes searching mine. Do you ever feel that? That sense of infinite possibility? I thought about it. Sometimes, other times, it just feels like a lot of pressure to pick the right path, to not screw up. Oh, you'll screw up, she said, a gentle laugh escaping her. Everyone does. That's how you learn. That's how you grow. She took another sip of wine. My biggest screw-up was probably marrying Ryan's dad. She said it without bitterness, just a quiet resignation. He was a good man in his own way, just not my man. Sorry, I said, feeling a pang of something I couldn't quite name. Don't be it, led me here, led me to Ryan, and two. Moments like this, she gestured, vaguely around the quiet kitchen. Peace. A little bit of peace. She looked at me again, a different kind of look this time. It lingered, warm and assessing, not quite motherly, not quite anything I could categorize. My heart began to thump a little faster. The air in the kitchen seemed to thicken, suddenly warmer. The look held. Her eyes, those warm honey eyes, seemed to bore into mine, stripping away the casual veneer of friendship, of age difference, of everything. It wasn't a come on, not overtly. It was deeper, more profound, shared understanding, perhaps, of the quiet vulnerability of the moment. My breath hitched. The air crackled with an unspoken question, a silent acknowledgement of something unquantifiable. That had shifted between us. My gaze dropped to her lips, then back to her eyes. Her lips parted slightly as if to speak, but no words came out. The silence stretched, pregnant with possibility, with danger. I swallowed hard, my throat suddenly dry again, despite the water in my hand. My mind raced, a jumble of thoughts I couldn't quite grasp. This was Ryan's mom. This was impossible. And yet the pull was undeniable. I felt a blush creep up my neck, a telltale sign of my burgeoning discomfort, or perhaps something else entirely. I needed to break the spell. I cleared my throat, the sound rough in the stillness. I should probably get back to bed. Early start tomorrow for the hike. I pushed myself off the counter, the movement feeling clumsy, too loud. She nodded slowly, her gaze still locked on mine. Right, of course. Her voice was a soft whisper. Good night, Liam. Good night, Sarah. I turned quickly, almost tripping over my own feet, and practically fled the kitchen. The cool air of the hallway hit me like a splash of cold water, but it did nothing to quell the heat rising within me. I stumbled back into my room, closing the door softly behind me. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat against the silence of the night. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, the image of her in that blue silk robe, her soft, searching gaze burned into my mind. Sleep felt a million miles away. The next morning, the air was thick with the scent of coffee and pancakes. The awkwardness of the previous night seemed to dissipate under the bright morning light, replaced by the usual easy banter. Ryan was oblivious, chattering about the upcoming hike. Sarah was her usual warm self, bustling around the kitchen, her movements graceful. But every now and then, her eyes would meet mine across the table, and a flicker of that midnight intensity would pass between us, a silent acknowledgement that something had shifted. Later that day, after the hike, Ryan decided he needed to hit the gym. You coming? He asked, already lacing up his sneakers. Nah, man, I said, stretching out on the couch. My legs were surprisingly sore. I think I'm gonna chill here, read a bit, suit yourself, he grinned, grabbing his keys. Mom, I'm heading out. Be safe, honey. LA called from the kitchen. The front door clicked shut. Silence descended, broken only by the distant hum of traffic. I picked up a book, but my eyes kept drifting to the kitchen. Sarah was washing dishes, the gentle clinking of porcelain, a soothing sound.
Oh.
Fawcett dried her hands, and then slowly she walked into the living room. She sat on the armchair opposite me, picking up a magazine, but not opening it. Her gaze was on me, soft, hesitant. The air thickened again, just like the night before. Rough hike, she asked, a small smile playing on her lips. A little, I admitted, my voice a little rough. My calves are screaming, she chuckled, a low, melodic sound that sent a shiver down my spine. You'll be fine. You're young. Another silence. This one was different, though. Not awkward, but expectant. My heart began to pound, a frantic drum against my ribs. I knew, instinctively, what was about to happen. She leaned forward, her eyes never leaving mine. "Liam," she whispered, her voice barely audible. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My breath was caught in my throat. She reached out, her hand hovering for a moment. Then gently, tentatively, she cupped my cheek. Her skin was soft, warm against mine. A shock, like a jolt of electricity, shot through me. My eyes fluttered shut for a brief second, savoring the feeling. Her thumb brushed lightly over my jawline, a feather-light touch that set my nerves alight. Then, slowly, her fingers threaded into my hair, her head tilting, her gaze still locked with mine, asking silently. I leaned into her touch, my own hand reaching up, finding her wrist, holding it gently. She leaned. She leaned closer, her scent a mix of cinnamon, a faint floral perfume, and something uniquely her, filling my senses. My eyes dropped to her mouth, so close. "Sarah," I breathed, the name a plea, a question. Her lips met mine, soft, tentative at first, then deepening, a gentle exploration. It was nothing like the fumbling kisses of girls my age. This was different. This was a slow burn, a tender, knowing touch that spoke of years of unspoken longing, of quiet understanding. I tangled my fingers in her hair, pulling her closer, deepening the kiss, a soft moan escaping my lips. Her hand, still on my cheek, pressed firmer, her fingers tracing the curve of my ear. Then, just as quickly, she pulled away, a soft gasp escaping her. Her eyes were wide, a mixture of fear and something else, something akin to wonder. She looked at me, really looked at me, her chest rising and falling rapidly. "Oh, Liam," she whispered, her voice trembling. This can't." She shook her head, pulling her hand away, almost snatching it back. She stood up abruptly, her movements jerky. "I'm sorry. Shouldn't have. This is wrong." She turned her back to me, her shoulders shaking slightly. I watched her, my own heart thudding, a mixture of exhilaration and crushing disappointment warring within me. It had happened, and it had changed everything. The next few days were a blur of nervous glances and unspoken tension. Ryan was back at school, consumed by his classes and friends. I was supposed to go home, but a flimsy excuse about needing to use their faster internet for a project kept me rooted at Ryan's house. Sarah didn't object. In fact, her eyes held a silent invitation. The first text came subtly. "Coffee's on if you're up." It was 7 a.m. I was already up, staring at the ceiling. I went downstairs.
He was in the kitchen, dressed.
In jeans and a soft sweater, looking impossibly beautiful in the morning light, we sat at the island, sipping coffee, talking about mundane things, the weather, Ryan's latest antics, a book she was reading. But under the surface, an electric current hummed. Then the texts became more direct. "Ryan's got a lab until 3. Want to watch that movie we talked about? Or going to the grocery store? Want to come along? It's quiet there this time of day." These were our secret afternoons. We'd sit on the couch, the silence between us comfortable, charged. One afternoon, we were watching an old black and white film, the kind with sweeping orchestras and dramatic pronouncements. She was curled up at one end of the sofa, I at the other. My hand almost unconsciously reached for hers, resting between us. Her fingers twined with mine, a gentle, silent acceptance. We talked for hours sometimes, about her past, her failed marriage, the quiet loneliness she sometimes felt. It's like she said one afternoon, her voice soft, "You get to a certain age and everyone expects you to be settled, content, but sometimes you're just not." She looked at me, her eyes glistening, and you feel so silly for it, like you should have it all figured out. I listened, really listened, for the first time in my life. I didn't offer solutions, didn't try to fix it. I just held her hand, my thumb tracing circles on her palm. Her eyes welled up, and a single tear tracked a path down her cheek. She didn't sob, didn't make a sound, just let the tear fall. I leaned closer, gently kissing the tear away, then held her close, my arms wrapping around her, her head resting against my chest. I could feel the gentle tremor in her body. We stayed like that for a long time, just holding each other without words. The only sound the quiet tick-tock of the grandfather clock in the hall. It wasn't just physical, it was a profound intimacy. A shared vulnerability that transcended the simple act of touching. We explored each other slowly, cautiously. Kisses became deeper, more lingering. My hands would trace the curve of her waist, the soft skin of her back under her shirt. Her fingers would thread into my hair, pulling me closer, a soft moan escaping her lips, a sound that vibrated through me. One afternoon, the sun streaming through the living room window, we found ourselves tangled together on the rug, clothes askew, but not removed. Her breath hitched as my lips trailed down her neck, her hands clutching my shoulders, a soft gasp escaping her. The air was thick with unspoken desire, with the thrill of the forbidden. We didn't go further, not then. The line was drawn, a silent agreement to keep it sensual, not explicit, to savor the delicious tension. The emotional connection. One afternoon, after a particularly intense session of kissing on the living room floor, her eyes, still clouded with desire, suddenly sharpened, a flicker of something akin to fear replacing the softness. "Liam," she whispered, her voice hoarse. She pulled away slightly, just enough to look at me, her hand still resting on my chest. This can't be real." Her voice was laced with a quiet despair. "This is a fantasy, a beautiful, impossible fantasy." My heart sank. I knew she was right, of course, but hearing it spoken aloud felt like a punch to the gut. "Why not?" I asked, the words sounding childish even to my own ears. She sighed, a long, weary sound. She sat up, pulling her sweater back down, smoothing her hair. The magic of the moment seemed to dissipate, replaced by a stark, harsh reality. "Liam, look at us. I'm 42, you're 20. I'm Ryan's mother, he's your best friend. This is a recipe for disaster. For heartbreak. For so much pain." She looked at me, her eyes pleading but also firm. "I care about you. More than I should. But I can't. I can't let this go on. Not like this." My stomach churned. "So that's it?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "It's over?" She hesitated, her gaze dropping to her hands, which were clasped tightly in her lap. The silence stretched, heavy and suffocating. I held my breath, waiting for the final blow. Then she looked up, a small, tentative smile playing on her lips. "Stay for dinner tonight, though?" she asked, her voice softer now, almost a plea. "I'm making your favorite lasagna." My shoulders slumped in relief, a gust of air escaping my lungs. It wasn't over, not yet. The question, "What is this?" hung unspoken in the air. We never asked it. We never dared. What happens next? We avoided that too. We lived in the fragile, beautiful, present, stolen moments, strung together like precious beads on a thread. Each touch, each glance, each whispered word was a secret. A testament to a connection that defied logic and societal norms. The weeks turned into a month. My project stretched on, a flimsy excuse I knew Ryan barely bought. He was too caught up in his own life, his own circle of friends. But sometimes a flicker of suspicion would cross his face. One afternoon, I was in the living room, sprawled on the couch, half asleep, when Sarah walked in, her hair slightly disheveled, her cheeks flushed, a soft smile on her lips. She had just come from the shower, and the scent of her shampoo, a light lavender, filled the room. She was wearing only a towel wrapped around her, just above her knees. She froze when she saw me, her eyes widening in surprise. "Liam." "I didn't realize you were still here." Her voice was a little breathless. She clutched the towel tighter. "Yeah, just relaxing," I mumbled, my gaze fixed on her, trying to keep my expression neutral. Just then, the front door burst open. "Mom, I'm home, and I brought pizza." Ryan's voice boomed through the house. Sarah's eyes darted from me to the hallway, panic flashing in them. "Oh, God," she whispered, her voice a soft, desperate sound. She glanced at the stairs, then back at me. There was no time to run. Ryan appeared in the doorway, a pizza box balanced precariously in his arms. He stopped dead, his eyes going from his mother, standing there in a towel, to me, sprawled on the couch, his brow furrowed. "Mom, what are you?" He trailed off, his gaze narrowing, a strange expression on his face. Not anger, not yet, more like confusion, a dawning realization. Sarah, quick as a whip, laughed, a slightly forced, high-pitched sound. "Oh, Ryan, you startled me. I was just about to get dressed for dinner. Liam was just, waiting for me to finish up so he could ask me about that history paper he's working on." She gestured vaguely at me, her hand trembling slightly. My mind raced. "History paper?" "Ah," I nodded vigorously, trying to look innocent. "Yeah, just needed a quick fact-check on the Peloponnesian War." Ryan's eyes flickered between us. His gaze lingered on Sarah's flushed cheeks. Then on the way, my eyes kept darting to her. He didn't say anything for a long moment, just stood there, the pizza box held awkwardly. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating. I could feel the heat rising in my face. Finally, he scoffed, a short, sharp sound. "Right, Peloponnesian War, of course." He shook his head, a faint knowing smirk on his lips. "Well, hurry up, Mom. Pizza's getting cold." He turned and walked into the kitchen, his footsteps heavy. Sarah exhaled slowly, a shaky breath. She looked at me, her eyes filled with a mixture of relief and shame. "Close call," she whispered, her voice barely audible. I nodded, feeling a cold dread settle in my stomach. To lie. The casual dismissal in Ryan's voice. It stung. It made our beautiful, fragile secret feel dirty, cheap. The magic of our stolen moments for the first time felt tainted. The close call left a bitter taste. The easy comfort of our secret afternoons was replaced by a gnawing anxiety. Every creak of the floorboards, every unexpected knock on the door, sent a jolt of panic through me. Sarah felt it too. Movements became more guarded, her laughter a little less free. One evening, after Ryan had gone out with his friends, she found me in the living room, staring out the window at the twilight sky. She sat beside me on the couch, her hand resting gently on my knee. "I can't do this anymore, Liam," she said, her voice soft but firm. "The sneaking around, the lying to Ryan. It's eating at me." My heart constricted. "What are you saying?" She turned to face me, her eyes filled with a familiar sadness, but also a new determination. I want 2 days with you, somewhere we're not hiding, somewhere we can just be, before we have to face reality." My breath caught. A weekend away, just us. It was a fantasy, a desperate grasp at something we both knew couldn't last. But the thought of it, 2 whole days without the constant fear of discovery, was intoxicating. "Yes," I said. Without hesitation, "Yes, please." She smiled, a fragile, beautiful smile that reached her eyes. "Okay, I'll figure something out. A small B&B maybe? Somewhere quiet?" The next weekend, we drove 2 hours north, to a small, charming B&B nestled in the mountains. The air was crisp, scented with pine and damp earth. The room was cozy, with a fireplace and a window overlooking a dense forest. For 2 days, we were just Liam and Sarah, not Ryan's best friend and his mom, not the 20-year-old and the 42-year-old. Just 2 people lost in each other. We hiked through the woods, holding hands, our laughter echoing through the trees. We ate simple meals in front of the roaring fire, talking for hours about our dreams, our fears, the things we'd never told anyone else. We kissed, deeply, languidly, on the porch swing as the sun set, painting the sky in fiery hues. We held each other close through the night, the warmth of her body against mine, the soft rhythm of her breathing, a balm to my restless soul. There was no sneaking, no hurried glances, just an open, honest connection that deepened with every shared moment. It was on the second night, as we lay entwined in the soft glow of the bedside lamp, her head resting on my chest, my fingers tracing lazy patterns on her back, that the realization hit me, sudden and profound, like a bolt of lightning. I wasn't just attracted to her. I wasn't just caught in the thrill of a forbidden romance. I was in love with her. The words formed in my mind, clear and undeniable. I love you, Sarah. The weight of them, the truth of them, was overwhelming. My breath hitched. I wanted to say it, to shout it from the rooftops, to tell her everything I felt. But something held me back. Fear. Fear of scaring her away, of breaking the fragile peace we'd found. She shifted, looking up at me, her eyes soft and luminous in the dim light. She smiled a gentle, knowing smile, as if she could read the tumultuous thoughts in my mind. She reached up, her fingers tracing the line of my jaw, but she didn't say it back. The words, the three little words that hung heavy in the air between us, remained unspoken. Subtle shift in the atmosphere. A quiet acknowledgement of the chasm that still lay between us, despite our profound connection. The drive back was quiet. The easy conversation of the past 2 days was replaced by a heavy silence, punctuated only by the hum of the engine and the occasional sigh from Sarah. The magic of our weekend bubble had burst, replaced by the stark reality of the world we were returning to. Pulled into Ryan's driveway, the familiar gravel crunching under the tires. The house looked the same, but to me, it felt different, tainted by the secrets it held. The air suddenly thick with unspoken goodbyes. Ryan was out, thankfully. Sarah put her keys on the hall table, her movements slow, deliberate. She turned to face me, her eyes already glistening. "Liam," she began, her voice a soft whisper, but laced with a quiet resolve. She took a deep, shaky breath. This has to end." My heart plummeted, a lead weight in my chest. I knew it was coming, but it still felt like a physical blow. She shook her head, tears welling in her eyes, but she didn't let them fall. "No, honey, listen to me." She reached out, cupping my face in her hands, her touch gentle, heartbreakingly tender. "This beautiful thing we found can't last. It's not fair to you, it's not fair to Ryan, and it's not fair to me to live in this impossible fantasy." Her voice trembled, but her eyes held steady, meeting mine. "You're 20. You have your whole life ahead. Of you deserve to find someone who can give you everything. A future, a family, a life that isn't built on secrets. But I want that with you," I choked out, the words raw, tearing at my throat. She smiled, a sad, wistful smile. "I know, sweet boy, and a part of me wants it too, more than you know." Single tear finally escaped, tracing a path down her cheek. "But I can't be that person for you. I have to be your memory, Liam, not your future." She leaned in, her lips brushing mine, a soft, lingering kiss, a final goodbye. It tasted of salt and longing and unspoken love. She pulled away, her hands dropping from my face, her eyes filled with a profound sorrow. "Go, Liam," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Go live your life, find your future." I stood there, rooted to the spot, my chest aching with a dull, persistent pain. I wanted to argue, to plead, to fight for us. But looking into her eyes, I saw the truth of her words, the quiet strength of her decision. She was doing this for me, for us, to spare us both a deeper heartbreak. I nodded, unable to speak. My throat was too tight. I turned, walked to the door, my duffel bag suddenly feeling impossibly heavy in my hand. I opened the door, the cool evening air, a stark contrast to the warmth of the house, of her. "Goodbye, Sarah," I managed, my voice a croak. She didn't answer. But as I stepped out, I heard a soft choked sob from inside, a mournful sound that echoed in the quiet street. There were no fights, no angry words, no slammed doors, just warmth, just silence, just the quiet, heartbreaking realization that some loves, no matter how profound, are simply not meant to be. I got in my car, the engine starting with a familiar rumble, and drove away, leaving a piece of my heart behind in that quiet house, with the woman who had taught me what it meant to truly feel.